Hey, so we've had a part shipment of some equipment um, with regard to my telescope order and things. So there's a lot of equipment that I can't use. Um, However, we can go through what I've received um, and, um, and take a look and discuss. Well, at least I'll say what I feel and what my expectations are. So firstly, we have the Primaluce Lab Sesto Senso 2. This is a focuser, piece of focuser equipment that you can attach to your telescope focuser if you have the right telescope, which I will have shortly, I'm sure. Um, and what we can see there is the device that fits. It's quite a weighty piece. It feels quite solid. Um, you'll see the inputs that we have here is a temperature sensor on the right, a 12-volt DC input, an ARCO input, which we'll elaborate on further, and a USB-C, which obviously is going to control the device if you connect it to a USB system. On there is a little marker that tells you that this is also running Wi-Fi. So it's got a little Wi-Fi controller in it, and you can operate it through your Android or iOS phone. This is different to most of the focus controllers that you might find on the market. Most will have some form of bracket that you attach to the focuser and maintain it in place while it operates your focuser. This one is more of a you see there's a little screw there. Don't know what the resolution is going to be like. So there's a little indented Allen screw type thing that you do, which is going to tighten this against the shoulder of your focuser. Now, does your does your telescope have a shoulder on its focuser? Mine does not at the moment. It will do because I'm moving to a different telescope. However, that's how it is. And if this isn't the right diameter for that shoulder, then you can get adapters which will put themselves basically attached to this shoulder and go to higher. So I think this is a 25mm shoulder, and in there you can just see a attachment to which you can attach a shim, and then you are able to fix that in place, and then later fix it in place on the telescope side. So an interesting way forward, not requiring a bracket that actually attaches to your focuser. However, be interesting to see how it works. Any movement, well, we'll see how that goes. Going back to these connectors. So we've got the USB-C. Obviously, that's going to be connecting to whatever controlling equipment that you're going to have. The ARCO is a specific connector to another Primaluce Labs product, which is essentially a rotator. It will rotate your CCD in whatever direction in order to frame your target slightly better. 12 volt, that's pretty obvious. That's what you need for power, and that needs to go in. And a temperature sensor, which we do have. a temperature sensor. So as you might be aware, when you change, as temperature changes, the focus will change. So this is something that's going to detect those temperature changes and potentially tell your software, look, we've dropped a degree, it's time for a refocus. So it gives you that opportunity to do that. I did purchase that on top. It's about £25 on top. What else do we have in the package? Does anyone else hate these? They are so big and clunky. You get 2 to a power tank. Sometimes you get the smaller power tank, you don't get any. Yeah. It looks like a 12-volt positive center, so hopefully we can just power it from what we're using in the existing basis. You get the odd USB cable. This has got the USB-C, which fits Primaluce, and it's got a standard USB-A connector on the other end. Might be useful. A lot of people swap these out and get their preferred USB manufacturer's lengths out. I might do the same. So then you get a load of shims, various shims, and these go essentially, and they provided a few Allen keys in there as well, but yeah, we'll see how useful they are, whether they fit. The one for the Skywatcher Spree is the red one, and that's one I'll be putting in and trying to fix the focusing too. So a bit of a, you may have seen in a previous video I showed you the star travel. Now obviously that doesn't have a shoulder, well it doesn't have a shoulder at all in order to attach it, so I can't do any testing with this until I have a telescope that has a proper shoulder attachment. So this is going to go back in the box and see how things go. But what is the difference between this and what we see or what we control in the Star Travel existing focuser that I showed you in an earlier video? And the difference is that this is a stepper motor. That means that with a 0.7 micron per step, this will actually turn. If I tell it to go 1,000 turns in a certain direction, it will go 700 microns in that direction. And if I tell it to go 700 turns in the other direction, it will also always turn, or should do, 700 turns in the other direction. Whereas the focuser, or the focus motor that I have at the moment, will essentially just take power and says, look, you've given me 0.5 amps and this many watts in one direction, and that's the amount of power that I will send in that direction. Of course, if you are hauling up a imaging train in a certain direction versus hauling or releasing down the same imaging train in the other direction, then what you're going to find is that's going to be different, and that is what throws out all the algorithms that you have. So it's very important when focusing via an automated algorithm that you have a piece of equipment that goes the same way in both directions, regardless of the gradient that it has to move. And so this is where this is going to hopefully improve things. Our other points, I guess, with this is you will notice that Zwo, which I'm a great fan of, and I love Zwo products, but Zwo produced something called an EAF, electronic autofocuser, which looks very similar to this, and it does have a bracket which keeps it in place, and will not allow it to move. And I'm hoping that somehow this will not move when it's on my scope. That's yet to come. However, that plus is offset by the fact that the Primaluce slab Sesto Senso 2 does something which the EAF does not. And that is, when this is disengaged, you can still focus via the manual control. So you can still do visual observing, and you can still, without the need of a mobile phone, or the motor on this moves pretty slowly, yeah. So if you're out of focus by a long way, it can take a long time for you to get back into prime focus. Whereas with the EAF, you are going to be stuck with focusing electronically, either via your phone. I didn't check whether the EAF actually supported Wi-Fi, this kind of thing, whether you can do it from the Wi-Fi, but you would have to do it electronically. Whereas with this, if you've got it turned off and you're just in for a night's visual observing, and you don't plan to do any imaging, automated imaging for the rest of the night, then you can turn this off. The clutch will disengage from the motor, and you can manually focus. Albeit you will not have the use of the microfocuser. If that's what your scope's got, you will have to use the quartz focuser. But having said that, it's that's just something, an extra grab that I thought was going to be useful for me. Having said that, you will be in a quandary, because once you've done that, you need to recalibrate this. And the recalibration method, or the calibration method when you first purchase this, is you bring the focuser all the way in to the scope, and then you have to retract the focuser all the way to its endpoint via the electronic system, which might take a certain amount of time. We will see how long that takes, and then set the calibration endpoint in order for you to have all the steps and know where your limits are with regards to focusing, and not try and drop the tube on the floor, on your on the tarmac, with all your expensive equipment at the bottom of it. So yes, if you do revert to manual focusing, you will need to recalibrate the Sesto Senso afterwards in order to revert to full automation. Truth is, I'm getting so much better results through a imaging point of view, and I'd much rather wait 5 minutes for an exposure to come through than I would looking through the eyepiece. It might be my eyesight is that bad. So well, unfortunately, this all this stuff goes back into the box until my Esprit 120 arrives, and I doubt very much I'll be using a connector like this. If there's anything to manufacturers out there, just stick to connectors like that, and produce boxes like the Pegasus PPP Advance or something like that, that just forces everyone to use something like that. We only need 1 or 2 of these, and it's not likely that we're going to be plugging in your equipment into the same thing. So hopefully very soon I will be able to test this out for good in a really good light environment. Thank you for watching. That was the Primaluce Lab Sesto Senso 2